Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. We're here on Wapo Hill. The gorgeous Vanessa Conlin is back. Many of you have seen her on our JCB Live a month ago. Opera singer, amazing wine dynamo, the catalyst of fine wine with wine access. And she's with us. She will sing tonight. She promised. If you do recall, she did that
I don't think so.
a few weeks ago. You did. And then we have one of her closest friends and one of mine as well, the famous Jason Wise. He's very wise, as you will see in a moment, because he is one of the greatest filmmakers we know within the world of fine wine. He was the one who created Somm. And then, another one, Somm Into the Bottle, and then Somm 3, and of course, Somm TV. Can you believe? He's won many awards in the world of television, movies, documentaries. He's even gone into the ocean to harvest sea urchin and just won an amazing prize. So, dear friends, they are here. We want to hear about them.
That's a heck of an intro. I really love that. It's good.
Here we are.
Oh.
Number 69, Jason is coming into your direction.
Oh.
Okay.
But we're going to do it differently. I'm going to have Vanessa serve you 69 because you will take it much better from her than from me.
That's loaded. Okay.
How do you know? Have you tried it?
I'm in on that.
He is in, but she asked you a direct question.
Oh, what is it that have I tried a 69 or the 69? The what? What are we talking about?
Here we are. This is going to be fun, dear friends. So to welcome Vanessa again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
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 You can tell it's going to be fun. So how did you both meet? We got to start right away.
I think the first time was you had me on blind tasting sessions.
That's right.
I believe, with Amanda McCrossan.
Yep. So we have a show on Somm TV where people kind of blind taste against each other, but it's kind of some are really competitive and not. But yeah, you and Amanda McCrossan.
Yes.
And you and this one showed up on set. She had flown. What did you land at? Like 3 hours of sleep.
I took a red eye. Yes, from New York.
And a piece of luggage hit you right in the head right before filming.
That's true.
Yeah.
I actually showed up with a huge shiner to film.
Wow.
Good makeup job. She hit it very well. She put another shiner on the other eye, and so
Yeah. Well,
and so
Amanda
it
also
matched.
punched herself in the face so that we would
That's
match.
right. That's right. It was very noble of her to have done that. Yes.
And then you fell into the charm of those beautiful eyes from Jason?
I think so. I think
Yes.
so. Yes.
Have you come out of that yet or
No,
not yet? Okay.
no, I can't
She's
look away.
still within the big blue.
The big blue. God.
So, Jason, how did you get into the world of television, movie production, documentaries, and all that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. No, I was I went to film school. I wanted to make films, and I ended up in documentaries. And Somm happens to have been the first, successful thing that I made. And
Well, before we go to Somm, though,
sure.
one of my favorite topics, I'm the grandson of 4 resistants in the Second World War
Really, is that true?
who were in Normandy to welcome the American forces. And my grandparents were very, very pro-American for that reason, because for many reasons, but one of them was that. So one of your very, very stellar, successful documentaries
A good
about
memory.
World War II.
You have a very good memory. Yes, my first film that I ever made was called 90, and it was about somebody who went through, at the end of World War II, they come out of a concentration camp, and the World War II guards, they meet each other in that time period, then they meet each other in the present, both, the first time kind of tragically, and the second time the audience doesn't know which one is which. And so it's kind of a little mini thriller type film, and that sort of started my career. But yeah, and I think if you see, the Somm films and all that stuff, you see my, not obsession, but my interest in World War II, and a lot of that stuff keeps coming through. I did not know you were the grandchild of resistance fighters.
Well, and my home village.
Where you live seems very different than hunting, living in the tunnels of Paris and
Well, the tunnels of Burgundy were invaded. Burgundy got occupied 6 months into the conflict. Alsace, Champagne, Burgundy. And our German friends really knew where to find the fine wines. So they certainly knew, but we knew how to protect it. And that would be, I think, a great movie you must do one day.
How did you protect it?
Well, we build walls in cellars.
they drank it all.
And we
Smart
hid
people.
them. And that's the cool part of it, is there's an amazing movie to make. There's a book, Wine and War.
Of course, yeah.
Fantastic book.
You've read it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what we did specifically in Nuit Saint-Georges and the Côte de Nuit is we built a wall. Luckily, due to the humidity, all the webs started to go, and the humidity really hid that it was actually something eventually behind it. So we discovered post-war thousands of bottles pre-1942.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool.
Are we opening one of those today? Or?
Absolutely, tonight.
Okay, I like to hear that.
Tonight, because dear friends, we're going to drink a lot of wine. Not only are we having fun now, but we're going to continue with a great dinner. What do you think of 69? As you look at Vanessa in the eyes.
I don't think that's how 69 works.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I don't know if you're
I
familiar.
need some anatomy classes. It's been a while, When after 15 years of marriage?
Yeah, it's true.
Well, it's only 11, but
Yeah. I think, hold on, let me look at the label. It's delicious, by the way. It's really good. So this is what, a Cremant?
Yes.
It is quite delicious. Actually, it's really good.
And it's all about Burgundy, so it's Pinot Noir, 100%.
Right.
What does it make you think, if you have to look at Vanessa's beautiful eyes, what do you see?
What do I see? I mean, I see a lot in Vanessa's eyes. I would say, none of this is going to go very appropriately, is it?
It doesn't have
It
to.
already wasn't.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, look, she's a master of wine. I think she should talk about the wine. I mean, for me, this I would drink large amounts of this. It's delicious.
Good.
It's very fresh and very clean.
Well, luckily tonight we have Magnum 3 liter, 6, 9, 12. We've refilled, dear friends. In front of us is the pool. Half of it with JCB 69. We'll be jumping.
It's a Meritage. Why is it called 69? What's the reason? Just for the jokes, or
Why not?
Why
Well, I
not?
hope 69 is not a joke. It's a reality within your life.
Significant
I was
year.
lucky to be born in 69.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
And any year in 9 in the old world of wine is magic. From really 1869, every vintage is phenomenal. So I was lucky to be granted a great vintage, at least for wine. For people, it's a little different. But. So what would you say as a word on this wine?
Charming.
Ooh,
Like you.
thank you. So how Somm started? Tell us.
Somm was okay. So how the film started? All right. Look, I was trying, I desperately to make a film, and the film I was trying to make, I've told this story before, but I don't think I've ever told it with how crazy it actually was. I was trying to make a film that took place during World War I with actors in Champagne, and I couldn't get it off the ground. It was tough. I was directing a travel show for PBS. We were back and forth between Champagne and France. Anyway. And every time I went to France, I was more let down by the fact I couldn't get this real project I wanted to do off the ground. And so in the process of this, a friend of mine I knew from my restaurant days, who happened to be Brian McClintock, who was a sommelier. He ended up being in Somm and all this stuff. I went and watched him practice blind tasting, and I played sports when I was in high school and college.
Yeah.
And what I saw were a bunch of guys on a sports team. I looked at it like a sports movie. I thought, this is a... that's gotten me in a lot of trouble now since because Somm is a certain thing, and now that I've gone on to try to make some more serious wine films. But anyways, I saw them and I saw their personalities, and I realized we had a real serious personality-driven film here around wine. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, Sideways gets bashed a lot, but as a film, it's a good film. People may not like some of the elements in it, and I think they miss some of it, goes over their head, but truthfully, there's not a lot of films that are unapologetically about wine. Yes. And so, it's an incredible honor in retrospect to have made that film and have done what it did. But you have to understand, I was just myself, my wife, our business partner Jackson. The three of us were just idiots trying to make a film for nothing. So it's not like whatever the film ended up doing. It's when we did it.
You said you were more surprised than anybody.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, and what did you think, Vanessa, as some wine expert, wine buyer, wine visionary that you are, what did you think of the film when you first saw it?
I think anything that draws people into wine, that gets people curious and intrigued and wanting to know more is great. So I'm all for it. It's the same when people ask me, what do you think of certain wines that are, you
Yes.
find at the grocery store aren't expensive. I say it's great. Anything that draws people in and gets people excited and wanting to know more, I think it's fantastic. So yeah,
That's a very safe answer. She's being very careful right there. I like that.
No,
But we'll get her going.
Yeah, don't worry.
I have
There's
to
a
say,
few other titles.
Yeah,
we
trust
can
me.
speak about.
There's no chance that she just feels completely fine about the first movie. But
I talk to a lot of consumers, and everyone
Turn it
asks
around.
me, "Have you seen this movie, Somm?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Yes, I have." And then they always ask me, because I'm a master of wine, not a master sommelier.
Yeah.
And they say, "Was it really like that?" And I say, "Well, my program was different, but absolutely, that kind of the struggle, the heartbreak, the highs, the lows, the camaraderie that comes from it. It's
Well said.
it's absolutely the same."
Yeah.
Well, and we need to outline again, dear friends, just for you to know, Master of Wine, of course. You remember, that's the highest degree. You could get, probably it's the PhD of wine. It's the professorial of wine. So what did you think of Somms themselves after spending so much time with
Good
them?
question.
that's an ebb and flow of a conversation. I mean, I think, when I first started this, I had heard about Master Somms. I mean, understand, I'd never met a Master Sommelier when I started making the film. And so I kind of put them on this pedestal, and I thought, wow, these people must know everything about wine. I mean, it became pretty apparent pretty quick that they're also pretty human too. And they're not, I don't think they would, the good ones wouldn't want to be put up on a pedestal anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But what did I think about Somms? I'm a guy from Cleveland, so I can't say I went to a lot of restaurants.
Cleveland, Ohio.
That's right, not Cleveland, France.
We have one in Burgundy. too.
Is there a Cleveland Burgundy?
Well, the mountains are cleavage, and there's always a play on the cleave of the land, the cleave of the land.
Is that what Cleveland's named
Yeah.
for? I
Yes,
never
we're
knew
known.
that.
We're known for cleavage.
For their fine
Yes,
wines.
I'm
that's
learning
what
so much
it's-
today.
That's what it's known for.
It's a good place, though.
I mean,
It's a fun place, Cleveland.
I would say if you have to go to the Cleveland and Burgundy, fine. But Cleveland, Ohio is a beautiful
If
spot.
you look for tires, Akron is not far away. And
That's
if you look
right.
for a car, here you are.
That's right. This guy knows a lot about Cleveland, Ohio. All right, so I haven't been to a lot of restaurants with sommeliers, so the whole concept of it was very foreign. Understand? And I had like a crash course, like I was thrown into boiling water to learn what these people are, and realized really quickly, not even a lot within the profession can define exactly what that means, or at least they don't agree with each other.
Yeah.
So my opinion of a sommelier and a somm started with reverence. I looked at them as, wow, how do they know all this stuff? To it's evolved into, I don't think their opinions are as valid as I thought they were when it started. To now, I think kind of trying to help the right people be able to have voices as sommeliers now. Because I think it's
that's an interesting.
yeah, and I think it's a very important thing to say that, like, when I started, which was only 11 years ago, 12 years ago, we started making the movie, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was you're looking at like mostly white, I'm not saying all, but a lot of
It was
white
mostly,
guys
yeah.
who are doing
Yeah.
this job, and at least the ones with the power, and it's changed for the better. It's interesting. So my opinion of it is it's very hard to answer that question because there's a lot to it.
And now, after the first, there's a second, there's a third.
And Somm 67, and I can't wait to get 69. You're going to star in.
It's about time.
Somm.
I've been waiting
It's all about
patiently
yeah, Somm
for
69.
quite some time.
It will be NC-17.
Hey, I'm
It will
going to
be-
tell you, Somm 69, at least from the title standpoint, will have a lot of success.
Okay, because it's 69.
Let's have a toast to that with our Chardonnay.
Yes.
And I'm so glad. Here we are. So
I hope my mom is watching this, Mom. To you.
there she is.
Yes, there's my mom.
Tell us about Cup of Salvation too.
Sure. Well, so we did the second film, and then
Yeah.
we did a third film.
But
and,
the second was a big success as well.
It was, yeah. The second one, actually, I think I am greeted way more by actual wine professionals that are now working, and this is like a huge honor for me. So I don't say this as a brag. Who say Somm 2 Into the Bottle made me want to, do things in wine, and that means I can't even overstate how much that means to me. It really does. And so
so the movie really attracted people to become a somm, right?
I think so. I think what Somm 2 did. I mean, Somm 1. All right, let's take this back a second. So when you say wanted to become a Somm, when I made Somm 1,
Yes.
and then we were at the
You
premiere.
mean someone or someone?
No, I
Good.
made
hearing is always as good.
Somm 1. So we would be at like premieres or something, and then like 2 years later, I would run into people, and they would be like, "You made me want to become a sommelier." And I looked at them like, "Did you see the movie? Why?" Like I didn't. I never understood, like, when I made the first film, like, why you would watch that and go, "I want to do that."
Yeah.
Because I think people are drawn to the passion.
Well, now I understand it, but at the
Right.
first I was like, we didn't make it for that reason. It was not
Right.
like, we didn't mean to make a commercial for the Court of Master Sommeliers as an accident. So, but yeah, I mean, it's similar in
It's inspiring to
Yeah.
watch people who are in any field, right? To watch people that are so dedicated that will devote so much time and energy and torture their loved ones with.
Yeah, you don't want to be the fiance or girlfriend or boyfriend of somebody studying for probably
Not
any
easy during that
MW
time.
exam, MS exam, any of this
Well,
stuff.
and here this is the highest, of course. This is literally getting your doctorate at Stanford or Harvard or MIT. That's the Master of Wine.
Right.
We only have 350 of them around the world for the last quarter of a century. So it's only a few a year. So where you belong is a very unique society that we're so lucky even to sit next to Vanessa.
I don't-
Did you realize that?
Look at I am terrified to sit next to her.
Can you
should be.
please convince her to give us a sound out of that voice?
Do people know she was an opera singer? Yes.
Yeah, they do. But
Former
you
opera
know,
singer. Was
And
an
when
opera
you
singer.
wear, you never lose it. So we understand you always per
Yeah.
Placido Domingo, per Pavarotti, you never lose it. So you never lose it.
I will tell you a real story if you'd like to hear.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the truth, because people when they hear that I was a trained opera singer, that I perform professionally, everyone wants me to sing one thing, sing a song, So quite honestly, I changed careers to enter the wine business.
Yeah.
After already performing internationally on Broadway as a singer, and I grew up around a family of musicians, so this is like part of who I didn't have any idea sort of who I was as a person without
Part of your DNA.
without being a musician. And I came to a point in my life where I thought, you know what, I love music so much, but actually this is not going to sustain me the rest of my life. And I want to pursue something that's going to keep me passionate and engaged long term.
Oh.
And so that's when I thought, well, what is that? And I was always very interested in wine, but we've spoken before, I did not grow up in a wine family. So I was starting from,
Yeah, the family was not
baseline.
really drinking that much.
No. And I fell in love with it, and I thought, this is it. This is my passion. This is what I wanted to do. And so I started studying, and I was still living in New York. I was still trying to keep up my practicing my music, and of course that was hours a day. I mean, hours a day, coachings and lessons and studies, and isolating myself so that I wouldn't catch a cold and not be able to sing. Don't eat spicy food. Don't drink alcohol. All these things. It's like being an athlete, because your body is your instrument, right?
For sure.
And so for a while there, I was trying to live this dual life, and I realized that one had to go.
Yeah.
And so, quite honestly, this is I'm being real with you. I had to almost treat that like I was mourning the loss of a person.
Yes.
I had to just decide, I'm not a musician anymore. I can love music so much, so passionately the rest of my life, but if I'm going to be serious about this new endeavor, I have to put that away. And it was honestly, it was a tough transition for a while, because it really did feel like a loss. And now
I hope it's not a long way to tell us that you're not going to perform for
I'm
us.
not going to
I feel like
perform.
there's a large there's the predicate is coming.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not,
but it's
no.
a big decision for
Yeah.
sure. Can you imagine performing on Broadway and all over the world and suddenly making that decision, that clear and clean transition to wine?
And I think also, when
I don't know how clean it was, but
nothing has been clean so far. Let's just start there.
I know you like unfiltered wine, so here we are.
Well, as long as
Forget
there's
clean
alcohol.
wine. I don't know what that means either.
But I think, for anyone who's done something at a very high level, it's almost painful to revisit and think, oh, I used to be able to do that, or I can mentally remember how to do it, but my body won't respond the way I wanted to. So
But we're
that's
sure
why I
that
resist.
your body after the Chardonnay will respond.
But she's really, really good at interpretive dance. And so her and I have talked about something we've rehearsed.
Yes.
Wow.
And she's going to do an interpretive dance. Why don't
So
you?
stay on, dear friends, because you're going to see it shortly.
Yeah.
And with that long, beautiful burgundy colored dress, that's the only thing you could do.
That's the only
So tell us about Cup of Salvation.
cup of
I mean,
salvation.
the Cup
Sure.
of Salvation, what a title.
Sure.
That was the third. Yeah, you could grab,
I
obviously.
just noticed this lobster over here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you probably can't see that, but there's a golden lobster 1 feet.
Be
from-
careful, she
1
becomes
foot from
alive and eat everything hanging.
I mean, I almost, you got this Target, right? So,
That's it.
Yeah, I had that once. Okay. Cup of salvation. So
That's always where I shop. This is my favorite place. This is
right.
where I got that wine
yeah,
too.
you get these glasses. You guys don't realize this glass weighs about 14 kilograms.
Yes.
It is very hard to pick up. I'm straining. Yes, Cup of Salvation. Okay, so we made these 3 Somm movies, and the third one was probably the most fun to make. The other 2 were quite difficult to make. But all along, I've been wanting to do religion and war are the 2 topics that I would like to very much be able to, I don't know, trick an audience into watching a film about war and think it's wine.
Yeah.
And it is wine, because wine is about everything. And as you said, walling up bottles, but also religion. And so, I had this idea after Somm 1 that I would like to make a film that had to do with the origin of religion, Christianity, Judaism, or Zoroastrianism, all these things. And I don't mean to get, too boring here, but wine itself, well, in my opinion, this is incredibly fascinating. So there's this thought, and I'll make this really quick. There's this thought that when people a millennia ago, we're talking 8, 10, 20,000 years ago, would see vines, and they would appear to die every year. And then when they would come back and they would refruit, and the thing would go on for a very long time, and you could chop budwood off and you could stick it in the ground. And it was this seemingly, now we have words for it, like a miracle or things like that. But then it was just, how do you explain that this happens? And there's a lot of thought that religion as a whole, at least the buddings of it may have been created through wine. And so we filmed a film which throughout the Middle East in the Caucasus Mountains, and a war broke out in the middle of our production. And but that is coming. It is.
Which war was that?
That was between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Which I don't even know that they've officially given it a name.
Well, they've been doing it for so many thousands of years.
Of course. Well, Armenia is right in the middle of the Silk Road. Georgia and all of these countries there, and then of course Iran, and it just goes on and on and on. But the point is, Cup of Salvation is the third of 3 more Somm films that we have coming in the next probably 16 months.
We're getting a news, Vanessa.
Yes.
This is a scoop, dear
First time.
friends. Stay.
Oh, it's a scoop.
Well, it's a big one.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm really testing, and if you like the Somm films or you like wine, I'm really testing the theory that wine does not have to be about wine in order to be about wine.
I'm
It's kind
so
of
excited to hear this.
a very circular process there. So the thought is, the first one we have coming is, I might be wrong. My producer's sitting back here, so I might be wrong in the order of these, but I believe the Ghost of Spring Mountain will be the first one to come out, and that is a film, Ghosts of Spring Mountain.
Forgive me for the slow people in the group.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so Ghost of Spring Mountain is about 3 abandoned ghost wineries on Spring Mountain here in Napa, and they're all reputed to be very haunted. And the film itself is not just about proverbial real ghosts, but also other things that haunt the properties, like a television show that was shot on one that has a hilarious story, and the fires that recently, the glass fire, which burned down one of these properties, which we happened to be filming there the day before it burned down, and it was from the 1870s, and it's lost forever, and it's right in the middle of the movie. So there's all of these ideas that Napa and wine is haunted by things, but of course this is a straight up ghost movie. I mean, for real.
Cool.
As Ouija boards and
We
all sorts of stuff.
cannot wait.
It's a wild film, but I'm also,
and-
I'm trying. Look, people were like, make another wine film, and I'm like, no, and they're like, yes. So I'm like, all right, I'll do something really.
And Jason, the wine we're drinking tonight, right now,
is from
Buena Vista Winery,
All
the
right.
oldest winery,
Very haunted, right?
very haunted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Part of the 12
Yeah.
documented and supposedly witnessed ghost winery in the wine country of California. So
Yeah.
I think that's for the next episodes. We got to be in the caves of
I'll
Buena
check it out.
Vista.
I'm in. I mean, Buena Vista's famous for their how old it is. I didn't know it was haunted, but
That's right.
look, I'm a believer in anything if it's interesting.
So that's one ghost.
Ghost of Spring Mountain, and so that
Yes.
comes in October. That's for Halloween, and that's a feature film. It'll be that one. I'm very excited. That one's gonna be a lot of fun. And then we have The Judgment of Paris, which we've been filming now for many years with every
We've
living
been
person.
filming it since 1976.
So we started. So yeah, that's right. George Tabor and Steven Spurrier called me, and they were like, "Get to this banquet room in Paris." And so I went. No, we've been filming, I think, for about 3 years or so. After Somm 3 had elements of The Judgment of Paris, and so we continued filming with Steven and filmed with Patricia Gallagher in Paris, and just sort of Paul Draper and all of the people who are still alive. that have kind of
Winiarski, of course.
Of course, we filmed with Winiarski,
And our good friend Bo.
Bo Barrett's in it for sure.
Yeah.
Bo Barrett is
Chateau Mantelina.
Bo Barrett is some of the funniest lines in the movie. I mean, he is absolutely
Always.
hysterical. He said to me, we were talking about Bottle Shock. He said the only thing true about Bottle Shock is when my character walks up in camera with a joint in one hand and a beer in the other. He said that's the only thing that was true in that movie.
I like the boxing session.
Yeah,
on top of
it never
the
happened.
mountain.
He said it never happened, but
But I think what we should do is have a toast for
sure.
Steven Spurrier.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
of
rest
course.
his soul. Our very good friend Steven, with whom we make a great wine in the Dorset, as we know.
That's right. Yeah.
And who was really the father of the Judgment of Paris, and then obviously great evolution of wonderful sparkling in England. And we had him on the show, one of the first one in April, and he was absolutely, as always, fabulous. So
I guarantee you, he is not resting. He is. He never
with
stopped.
us.
He never stopped. I mean, Stephen we became very close since Somm 3, and that guy, he was going crazy having to be stuck at home with quarantine. I mean, he normally was on planes, working all the time. He did not stop going. I mean, I saw that guy in Virginia and London and Paris and Napa, and I kept running into him all over the world all the time, and he just did not stop.
And I'm so glad you're doing a movie that is coming out when on the Judgment of Paris, you think?
Nadine, when's Judgment of Paris coming out? Near the end of the year, she says.
Ooh, that's going to be our Christmas gift.
Yeah,
We'll
so
go
that's the
together.
goal.
We'll
That's
go
the goal.
together.
We wanted it out for the anniversary that's coming here, but it's the 45th anniversary,
Well, and Vanessa, for you as a master of wine, diploma granted in the UK, Stephen at the beginning of it, as we all know, what does it mean, the Judgment of Paris? Because I think it really changed the world of wine in many ways, right?
Well, it put Napa on the map for sure. I mean, we talked
California wine too. I mean,
yeah,
I think in
California
general,
wine, of course. Yeah, but
Paul Draper, Ridge always gets mad when people say they're like, "We're not in Napa." Yeah.
right. No,
but you're right.
Of course, important distinction. But no, I mean, I think we talked about this recently on a podcast. There were so many things that we were talking about cult wine, I think, but there were so many things that kind of led to Napa being what it is today, and that was really sort of the first domino to fall. So many things after that.
I mean, it influenced me to grow my hair like this.
Yeah, it looks very good. It's very
Thank
Stephen Spurrier-like.
Yes, well, that's the goal here.
But
to
you
look
got
like-
to stutter a little bit.
he does.
Because
On camera though,
when we
on camera though,
when
you never stutter.
study at
Really?
Eton,
Yeah, it was-
you got to learn that.
It's funny, like people who know him always say he has a stutter, but when we would roll, he just never.
He was
never,
rolling.
Yeah, he just. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't a guy like if you ever saw him. Yeah. Anyways, he was
So
pretty.
that's Judgment of Paris #2.
And then Cup of Salvation is number 3. And
That's
so, it wasn't intentional. COVID kind of changed things. I mean, so what we did is Nadine, myself, Christina Jackson, we all decided to shoot these all back to back to back.
Yeah.
Now, Cup of Salvation actually was probably the first one to start shooting. I might be wrong here. But we didn't intend for the order of them to happen. And this is what happens. I refuse to stop filming. So the thing is, like, they always said this on Jaws, you take the film out of the camera and they won't let you put it back in. So on my thing is COVID started happening and I went, we need to shoot 10 times more.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, why? And I'm like,
Smart.
because they're going to not let us film anymore if we don't. So
That's it.
so my thing was like, we worked around it and we found crews in different countries. We hired a crew in Paris that now works for us shooting.
Wow. So cool.
I mean, I don't want to get off topic, but June 18th, we have a feature film coming about the Rothschilds. First time they've ever allowed anything like this. And it's because of the way
The
we
wine
approach.
or the banking
Well,
side?
but,
or-
I mean, it's about the
all of
entire
it?
family, but it's mostly Lafitte Rothschild. So the Baron and his daughter are the main
Sure.
characters and all that stuff. But the reason I bring this up is, aside to plug Somm TV, June 18th, this film is coming out. The reason I bring this up is that, we were able to adapt a little bit towards when COVID happened. Instead of just locking ourselves in a room, we were able to say, look, let's hire crews. Let's actually go through the insurance protocols.
Congratulations.
Let's make it happen.
So
And,
you did the opposite. You pivoted by doing more.
I tried. We tried. I don't think we've slept in a year and a half. But
and where do your ideas come from?
a lot of hard drugs. No, I don't know. We just, here's the thing. When it comes to no hard drugs. Actually, this is probably the hardest drug. When it comes to just the number of stuff, there is no end. So the problem is when I go, like for instance, I'll interview, like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
All I can think about right now is why the hell do we not have our World War II film 2/3 of the way in the can? And it's like hearing you talk about how the fact that your family's some resistance fighters. I mean, so the ideas come from, they're like out there. You just grab them. And I think
Some conversations and
I think
interactions.
the weird thing that is, if I deserve any credit, it might not be as a filmmaker, it might not be it's to just pushing all these things to the finish line.
Yeah, for sure.
And just keep pushing and pushing.
And that's the key, is to really turn an idea into concrete execution, which is not easy. Talking about that, you have a podcast together.
Well,
she's been on the Somm TV podcast many times, and you host your own podcast.
I have Wine Access Unfiltered, but you have a podcast coming out, or that you're working on, right? That you're releasing that we're.
How many podcasts do I have coming out? I have to think about which one we're talking about right now. For History of Wine? For Wine Access?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there's a podcast called History of Wine. That's right. Sorry.
I think there were some
maybe
hard
it's
drugs.
the Chardonnay. I hope
No.
so.
What's in this? Yeah, no, we have a podcast called History of Wine, which involves wine access. It's gonna be fantastic. It's been a real tough thing to figure out how do you get the wines in our content, but also how does that enrich the story? Because it's tough to just do sponsored stuff. Doesn't really make sense. People are, they don't want that. And so the really cool thing with Wine Access, and with especially the fact that Vanessa and the rest of the team, they really get the stories. And so it's kind of one of these things. So History of Wine is the Americas, and it's about a bunch of regions and how they came about, what happened, all that stuff. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So talking about hard drugs, what did you think about the Chardonnay?
I feel like
can you believe this is the wife of the founder of Buena Vista, named Eleanor, and she was an amazing woman, mother of 6, and they came as immigrants from Hungary, and in honor of her, we've created this, North Coast Chardonnay. I'm a huge fan of it, and I hope
that's delicious.
Well, we've almost finished the bottle, so I think we're all fans
we're
of
doing
it.
well.
Yeah. Well,
But what does this wine inspire you of, if anything? Before we talk about all your wine auction and charity endeavors, because both of you
And yours.
are doing
yours, yeah.
well, but you're doing so much yourselves. And
let me think here. It's delicious.
she's watching you.
Oh, I'm not
on
I'm not wine tasting in front of an
I know,
MW.
I know.
It's
I know it's very intimidating. I'm sweating as
No.
well.
Oh.
Making the wine is not enough. It doesn't mean that you make it. You know how to talk about it.
no, it's good. I mean, it's this tastes. I'm assuming very much that this is not as nearly costly as it smells. It is a.
Ooh,
This
I like
smells
that
very,
compliment.
very, very well made. Very well made. I mean,
so
it's coming from a very historic place. I think that this is the kind of stuff that I eat this stuff up. This is one of the
Good.
oldest wineries in
well, you
California.
can chew on it too.
Chew on.
So talking about Somm's wine, we are, Jason, ecstatic of what you've done for the wine world, and I want to raise my glass to thank you for that,
I
because
appreciate it.
Vanessa would confirm it's the hardest thing to present to the public. Wine is very difficult to talk about, to describe, to really explain what we do, from the winery to all of its wine pairing and efforts. So you're really making it so accessible and entertaining. Why do you think there's not much more anything about wine on television, movies, documentaries, all of it at large?
I think because it's tough. I don't want to say anyone who's done things are doing it wrong, but I do think the problem is people they look into the glass instead of letting the glass kind of look out.
That's right.
And I really think when we do it now, we have some. If you go to Somm TV, we do have some stuff that's like, what is it? What are the regions? You need the because eventually once you're entertained, but then you want to go, okay, let me understand Rioja, let me understand El Barino, let me understand how Napa got formed. So we do have stuff that is, narrow, but I will also say that I think wine's people are tricked by wine because when you drink it, there's a little alcohol. You're usually with people you like. Yeah. Maybe you're sitting across from your wife or something. So you're tricked into thinking that this thing is a lot more fun than it is. But if you take the drinking out and you take the fun people around you out, you look at the table and it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's just sitting there. And so I think the one thing we've tried very hard to do is make people understand that A, that is the truth, but B, wine is way more interesting than I think a lot of people present it.
And how much on that note do you think Somm TV today is impacting the wine world and bringing people into the world of wine at large? Because I obviously think you're doing an amazing job, obviously. But.
Well, you're very kind. I think, look, I work with some of the most talented people, I believe, aside from the two sitting here, in the wine and food space. So, but also, we're mixed with production. So here's the thing. When you make a film, it's people either like it or they don't. And so you are right there. You're judged immediately. People just turn it off. And so we have to, we have to cash checks immediately with our stuff. And so it's interesting. Whereas wine, I think people try to learn and they go, how do I know if this is good? Like you see it, they go, tell me what's good, tell me what's not. Whereas movies, if you turn on Die Hard and you watch it, you go, all right, I like it. You put your feet up and you watch it.
Yeah.
Movies, it's like innate. And so when you mix the thing, we have an ultimate challenge that like, it can't bore you. It's got to be good.
And
because people just turn it off. They don't care. I mean,
do you both actually think that America, if we take America as an amazing influential continent, that Americans today are into wine for the real reason of wine being part of the culture, the society, the food pairing, part of themselves? Or do you think we still have a lot of work to do there?
I think there's always work to do, right? Because the world of wine keeps constantly changing and evolving. But I do think it's much more a part of the culture now. But I think, again, not to pile praise on you, but I'm going to, but I think things like what you've done have made people really engaged with it in a way that they hadn't before. Because I think there is an intimidation factor, right?
Yes.
And this conception that you need to know something before you can understand whether it's good or this barrier to entry, right?
That's right.
And I think that things like what you do have helped people understand that, actually I know so much about what's in this glass because I'm using my senses. Those belong to me. No one else can tell me what I should be feeling and enjoying right now, right? But also it connects so many things, right? Like religion, culture, arts, chemistry, history, like we're talking about. And so I think it's really changed the way that people have enjoyed and experienced wine. Hey,
I appreciate that. I honestly think, when we go to anyone, when you go out to dinner, I think the person that always chooses the wine, it's like, well, let's give Jim the wine list. Jim knows what he's doing. I think Jim knows less about wine than everyone else at the table. It's my problem. So when you go to dinner and people they'll go, oh, you made some, and they'll hand me the wine list. I'm like, don't hand it to me. I mean, like, I'd rather the person that knows the least amount take a look at the list, ask questions, figure it out. Yeah. But honestly, the wine they're going to pick is going to be surprising. We're going to talk about it. It's not going to be like, I look at it and I go, oh, well, what's our budget? $80? Cool. This Merceau looks good. Let's buy it. So like my thing is,
I'm delighted you can get a Merceau for $80.
Well,
that's a good one. Jason, can you give us your relationship?
Yeah, well,
I
think the real truth is I don't often pay for dinner. It's probably what I know. But
he must have a discount.
So yeah. Well, I think that's the important thing with wine is that like, what the guy, and it's usually a guy, unfortunately, at the table who thinks they know a lot about what to pick, they generally don't know anything about what to pick.
For sure.
I mean, they know what they like, and that's the problem. Someone who totally knows what they like has also stopped figuring out that they might like other stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I find that often with wine, and it helps that, I've luckily not succumbed to, all right, here's my only style I like. Here's my only. I've been very lucky in that regard. I have 2 young children, so I need a lot of alcohol. So I don't discern. I don't want to kick wine out of bed. But I will say, when it comes to that stuff, I often find, sometimes the quietest person, the person you would not hand the wine list to is probably the person you should. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because you're all going to talk about, look, Sarah picked this wine, and she picked it from, the Canary Islands. Why did you do that? And she would say, well, because, they described it in a way that's, you have a conversation then. Instead of, all right, Jim picked the wine, here's what it is, and let's just drink it because he says it's good.
Maybe people hand you the wine list because you have a great new hairstyle.
I don't know that this is new.
Do you think it has something to do with it?
I don't know. I think this is more just not cut. I just haven't cut my hair.
Maybe it's very Steven Spurrier-ish.
Yes, yes. I would. That's a huge compliment. And I guarantee his wife Bella would say, "Cut your hair."
Probably. Maybe at least one side.
Yeah,
But it looks good, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you.
You're rocking it.
This is a house of compliments. I like this.
Well, to your point, the biggest challenge we've always had in wine, besides books, besides handouts, besides complex technical description, we've always had a hard time to make it that very enjoyable, approachable, gift of God and gift of civilization. And I think you've succeeded to help us do that. So when people go to Somm TV or the podcast on Wine Access, what are they going to get?
Well, I mean, so Somm TV in its own is, it's got hundreds of hours of original stuff that we've made, with a, hopefully a high bar for quality. It's $50 a year, and you get tons of that stuff. And eventually events will kick back up to you soon.
So it's $4.25 a month?
It's $4.99 a month or $49.99 for a year.
It's cheaper than Netflix.
Oh, yeah. It's like half,
it's
less than half the price of Netflix. I would say that Netflix, not that Netflix has quite a bit more content. But at the same time, we're building this library, and it's pretty big now. We're very happy about it. So I think what you get is hopefully a very unexpected amount of stuff that you think is all about wine, and it's really about a lot of other things too. And look, if you want to be the person at the table who can order and can look smart, you can do it unpretentiously by watching on Somm TV this stuff. I mean, it's good documentaries. It's not just educational stuff. So
very cool.
And the similar thing with your podcast. I mean, it's about what happens when you want to learn about wine, and
on Unfiltered.
Yeah.
Wine Access Unfiltered. So it's all we have guests on who are not in the wine business but appreciate wine. So we have MBA, MLB, we've got CEOs, we have comedians, we have musicians, sort of name it. But I think that's fun. And you know what? You get a couple glasses in people and they'll tell you really interesting stuff. I think we're learning this right now.
We love the name. So it's called Unfiltered.
Wine Access Unfiltered.
Yeah, very cool. So how often do you come out?
We're about every 2 weeks, and you can find it in all the places that you would find podcasts,
very
Spotify,
cool.
iTunes, etc.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So you like unfiltered wine, huh?
I do. I love
This
it.
happens to be unfiltered.
Oh.
And decanted. So what do we think about decanting wine or carafing wine? If you're French, you call it carafe. If you're British, you say decante, right? But
if you're American, you say, do we have a pitcher?
So we're trying now a Zinfandel. Okay. So the beginning of what the Count of Buena Vista did, in 1857, he was the first one to bring Zinfandel to the United States. So I'd love for you to tell me what you think about
I have to catch up.
Unfiltered and decanting, because you may have a different opinion.
Thank you.
Of what do we think about carafing, decanting wine, and
first of all, this wine is fantastic, by the way. I didn't expect it to be so good. Where's the bottle?
Thank you.
It's really good. It's we've been doing. I have found myself leaning way back into Zinfandel. It's where I started my interest in wine.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, it was something that like you would find. I don't know, when I first started bartending and things out in California. Yeah. Zinfandel was a wine because it was primarily meat-based stuff where I worked. So you'd find Zinfandel, but I will say, I went through a period where I didn't give it the credit it deserved. Yeah. Now I am fully back on Zinfandel. I think it is
this is when we think about it, Jason, it's the American identity card in many ways.
It is. We stole it like most American things. We stole it from
you borrowed it, I think.
Yeah, the Italians and everyone else brought it here, yeah. But
we steal from America today from all around the world, as we know. So you become the inspiration on the planet.
Here's my opinion. Anytime Europe gets mad at us, we're their fault anyway. So look, they did this. They did this. Okay, you have to own up what you created. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Trying to rile you up.
What do you think of decanting, Jason, Vanessa?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't really have a.
So I don't do a lot of decanting, and I only do it for two reasons. Yeah. One, it really is an older bottle, and I need to decant off the sediment, or it's a very, very young bottle that really needs air. Other than that, I don't. I have a feeling we might differ on this, but for me, we
never differ on anything.
Well, I like to watch the evolution in my glass over time. So I tend to think sometimes if I decant, maybe I miss this beautiful moment while it was in the decanter, and I want to experience it in my glass. And I want, it's like missing, the adolescent years of maybe you want to miss the adolescent years of your children. I don't know, but it's like missing part of the life of the wine. So
that's right.
So that's my opinion.
What do you think, Jason, on that?
I mean, the service of it is gorgeous for one. So I do like the element of having a decanter involved in service, but I don't know. It depends. It's so dependent on the wine. I mean, you go some places where they'll decant everything. You'll see they'll put sparkling wine in a decanter, and it's kind of like, why did you do that? But I think when it comes to like a Zin or a Bordeaux or something that traditionally can benefit from some air, I'm all for it. I mean,
there's something romantic about it, right? There's this service element that's very attractive to it.
So we have a chance. We're both romantic. So Vanessa is going to look at us differently. We had the decanter. I'll toast to that.
She's going to look at us differently. I think too. The other thing with the decanter is if you pour the wine into the decanter, you got to finish it.
Yes.
You're not pouring it back in a bottle.
Totally agree.
So I mean, that's a commitment that, hey, everybody at the table, we're going to drink this wine. And
so Jason, before we go to your phenomenal charitable endeavors, where do you actually get your inspiration? Because you're not from wine. You're not necessarily affiliated with wine from a vineyard or history in your family.
Sure.
In Cleveland, it's difficult to plant grapes at this stage. All the Michigan wines are quite nice.
I've had some nice Michigan wines.
Yeah.
Pinot Blanc, Riesling.
Mostly whites, Mostly whites. I don't know. I think first of all, I happen to. This is a tough question to answer. I'm trying to think of a nice sweet answer.
Why start now?
Yeah, why?
That's right.
Hard drugs. No, it's I think truthfully that the ideas and the inspiration and all that stuff come from every single time I've wanted to leave, like making wine films.
Yeah.
And I have many times. Every film I've ever made, I'm like, because they're hard. And I'm a baby and a lot of other things. But when I'm ready to go, I'm like, that's it. I'm never doing it again. But I will say, I work with and meet the sweetest, most wonderful people. I mean, I don't think, there's this idea that like wine is not inclusive and it's kind of pretentious. Or that's total BS.
Yeah.
People in the wine world are the nicest, most welcoming, incredibly. So I think my inspiration to stay in this world is the fact that I adore so many people. And every time I meet, for years, I wanted to film with Aubert de Villaine and Domaine Romanée-Conti.
Mm-hmm.
I filmed with him in Somm too, and he is this charming, wonderful, incredibly wonderful, but with this really interesting sense of humor, just a guy I never expected him to be. And I'm like, this is not what I expected. Yes. Now I have 100 ideas about what I want to do with this person again. And Jean-Louis Chauve's similar, and so many of the Napa winemakers I film with, that's the inspiration comes from just continuously being stacked with generosity, and that's true. I'm not saying that's not a canned answer. It's really the nicest world I've ever been a part of. Because if you go to the film world, everyone's trying to cut each other's throats. It's not that people don't want to see others succeed.
It's not as friendly as we think it is.
It was the same in music.
Yeah,
it's very competitive.
I believe that, and the wine world itself. Look, I mean, this world has put up with me, doing this over and over and over again. And they haven't stopped me. I keep looking like, when are you guys going to stop me from doing this? And they keep letting me do it.
You recently in 2020 did the Urchin phenomenal award winning, so you could go from Earth to the ocean once in a while.
Yes, I made a film about sea urchin divers and shark attacks and all that stuff off of California.
So sea urchin. I mean, why sea urchin?
Well, because
for God, heaven, bloody ocean's sake.
Well, because it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, and so. I started my career actually, as an underwater photographer. I never said that, but it's true.
Wow.
And so I wanted to make a film where I could actually do that. We shot the whole thing on film. It's on Somm TV. It's called The Delicacy. It's going to iTunes.
It's called The
Delicacy.
Delicacy.
It's a beautiful film. I mean, honestly, like the underwater footage is. It looked like impressionist works of art. Some of those shots. So it's a gorgeous film if you haven't seen it.
That's a big compliment.
She's on our PR team, by the way. I should just let you know. But yeah, I've made several films that are not about wine. This one is about a pretty tough, a pretty deadly shark attack that happened to a diver, and also about there's a lot of history in there though. The film starts in Pompeii, and we filmed in Pompeii and all that stuff, and so it's not a film you would expect, I suppose, but I made a film about a Hollywood actress and other things before, and I have a film coming out about the history of the Kodak Film Company.
Wow.
And so, but at the same time...
Rochester, New York.
Yeah, in Rochester. We filmed quite a bit in Rochester.
That's the most exciting film there is.
Yes, I don't know about
No, but it's exciting in a way.
It's not John Wick 3, but it's...
Well, when we talk about someone who doesn't recognize the turn of evolution of time.
Of course.
From that Kodak moment to that dark moment.
Look, I'm very, very infatuated by the fact that there is a date on these bottles.
That's right.
And sommeliers and MWs and everybody, they look at it as like, what was the I don't mean just to pigeonhole you, but I mean, they look at it as like, what were the growing conditions?
Yeah.
What was the weather like? What was X? What were the bricks? And I look at it as, holy crap, they killed Kennedy this year. So for me, I look at it and I go, this wine, my parents graduated high school here. I look at it, to me, it's totally different. So there's so few things that put a year on it.
That's right.
That means good. Most things that have a year on it, it's like, oh crap, I'm drinking the milk too late.
Mm-hmm.
This one's like, it's good. It works in
and
reverse.
luckily,
It's
you
like,
stop milk in the morning, you have wine, right?
That's right. Well, oftentimes, yeah. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking
After
about.
the hard drugs.
You got to tell
after the
us
hard drugs.
about your few moments left. Your
Sure.
incredible Winapalooza.
Absolutely.
I mean,
this is.
unbelievable charity.
We need more than a few minutes to talk about
We
this.
do.
Well, Vanessa, tell us all about
Yeah.
how it started and all of this, because this is huge.
It is, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. So June 19th is WineaPAWlooza. It is the annual charity auction that benefits Jameson Humane, which is based here in the Napa Valley, but serves the entire community, the United States, and indeed the world in terms of the barometer that it's setting in terms of what people can do, not just about animals, serving animals, but the environment and people.
That's
right?
right.
Because we're all connected.
For sure.
So this is a very, very important event, and that Jason has been involved in first as a donor.
Versus Donut, that's right.
And then last year as the producer of the virtual event, and then this year again. So it will be streamed live at 5 p.m. Pacific on June 19th on Somm TV.
That's right. And it's free for everybody, whether you're a member or not. Download an app on whatever.
So
app.
we don't have to pay the $4.99.
You don't have to pay. Yeah, heaven forbid. But like if you go to Apple TV or you go to Roku or any device, any smart TV, anything like that, or else SommTV.com. It's outside of the paywall, so you can watch this. Keep going.
No, absolutely. And WineaPAWlooza.com. So it's WineaPAW, like a paw of an animal, WineaPAWlooza.com. So you can check out the amazing auction lots there. You can sign up if you want to watch for free. If you want to buy a ticket package and have some beautiful wines shipped to you, that's an option as well. But this community here is so generous, and they've recognized how much the Jameson Humane has done for this community, including very important things like disaster relief and preparedness, which unfortunately Napa has had some pretty rough years recently in terms of earthquakes, several fires, etc. And so they've impacted the lives of so many, not just animals, but people, again, because we're all connected, that we have auction lots from people like Silver Oak, Opus One, Scarecrow.
This is one of the
Screaming
absolute,
Eagle.
I mean, the best wine auctions, experience auctions in the world. I mean, all of the stuff, it's such an important message, but it is also the stuff you can get.
You can't find anywhere
I said this
else.
on our podcast, like it
Yes.
could be the best wine auction in the world. I mean, as far as what you can do.
I think it's
insane.
It's the hottest and the coolest wine auction. Yes, because and we have a contribution from you, Jean-Charles.
Well, we're very honored. And it's going to be in a secret location, right?
Well, we know the location now, so we'll be broadcasting from Nine Suns on Pritchard Hill. They're very generously hosting us there.
Fantastic.
So Fritz Hatton is our auctioneer. He's one of the most famous wine auctioneers in the world. He also is quite a personality.
And we've
fair.
seen it, some of you on JCB.
Oh,
Live
yes, right.
A few weeks ago. So Fritz is amazing.
He is.
Really charismatic, powerful. He's an energy bunny in many ways and gets all of you going. So if people want to bid, they can.
Absolutely. So Fritz and I will be co-hosting, and you can bid on your device, on your iPad. You can from home. So it's very easy. You can log in from anywhere around the world and join in this amazing auction. And there are these amazing auction lots like from you, but also always we have something called the Fund a Need. So Fund a Need is a way to get involved at any level. So some of these auction lots, because they are, to your point, Jason, can't find them anywhere else, right?
Impossible.
So they can be quite expensive, as they should be, but the Fund a Need is a way, if you want to give $20 to this organization, you can absolutely raise your virtual paddle then and get involved.
I feel like I'm drinking more than you guys.
Virtual paddle. I love it. So incredible, dear friends. We'll be back very soon in June. Other question, what are both your dreams? Let's get to one of the last few questions, and maybe Jason starts and Vanessa and Jason. But we've talked about the auction world. We've talked about Somm and how you started and how you made it in such a phenomenal way in the world of film and movies and documentaries and really enhancing a wine world that was so in need of it. Vanessa, master of wine from opera to today. Give us your dreams, because all of us are dreaming, but we want to hear about yours.
Dreams in what regard?
In any regard.
In any regard, any dream.
You could be as wild as you want. Is to see Vanessa jump in the pool has been one of your dreams with her beautiful volume.
I mean, I'm already having your
and a
69,
glass of
which is,
Zinfandel.
I'm already having your 69, which is quite a.
I know it doesn't get any better than that.
That's, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of stories to tell. I mean, many, many, many films to make. Look, I have it's crazy to sit here and go, this is what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm doing it. And so, I mean, my dream is to keep doing it.
Yes, but
I mean,
we talked about your favorite movie producer.
My favorite filmmaker, yeah.
Filmmaker, produced an amazing movie we both love. Name?
Ron? You're talking about Kurosawa? Yeah.
For sure.
It's born on the same day as me, by the way. It's a Japanese film director who's really, really, really talented.
Unbelievable. You could find it in the Criterion collection.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
Look, I mean, as far as like filmmaking stuff goes, there's a Western I wrote that a pretty violent film that I'd like to make very badly. I have a film about the composer Franz Liszt that I refuse to die until I make. I could die after that. There's a number of projects that.
So film is your dream.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. For sure. Why not? I mean, I also, yeah.
What about you, Vanessa?
I
have the feeling to be Austin Powers. What do you think, Vanessa?
Yeah.
Vanessa, I'm rowing. Yeah. In the movie, he disappears under the table. I won't do that today.
I think my dream is to keep continuing to have dreams, to never get stuck, to get stagnant, to keep connecting with people and trying new things and challenging myself. I think we spoke about this a little bit when I was on your show previously, like to not be afraid of being afraid to try something.
That's right.
to continue to feel the fear and do it anyway. And so just to
feel the fear and continue anyway. That's a beautiful sentence. Yeah. And keep dreaming. Yeah. And from one dream to the next dream.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm always afraid, what about if I don't have an idea? It hasn't happened yet. But I see what you mean, is keeping dreaming is a good one. Mm-hmm. So both of you, last second with our friends, big message to the world. Whatever it is, Vanessa or Jason, what would you say to the world now if you had, after the 14 months we've lived, you kept being an entrepreneur and innovating and doing great things. You kept with Wine Access, not doing phenomenal things, but created Unfiltered, WineAPAWlooza, many other things. What advice do you have for all of us in this world? To all of us?
Well, I think that this has been obviously an extremely challenging year in so many ways for people. I think it's also allowed us time to be more introspective.
Yes.
And to your point, to dream a little bit. What would I do if I wasn't here? What do I want to do next? So I think my message would be, take what you dreamt about during this time when we couldn't do those and go do it.
I mean, I don't know.
Jason.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough not to plug this Jameson Ranch auction. I mean, you weren't able to do stuff for a year and a half almost.
Yeah.
And now you have all of these things coming up in this auction where you can literally do something you could never do, ever, 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 without this one tiny opportunity. I mean, I would say go to WineAPAWlooza and bid.
Yes.
Is what I would say, because you can
give back.
You can do things that I'm telling you right now. I've spent a decade in the wine business, and Vanessa, she's rich and can do whatever she wants. I don't get to do this stuff, and I can tell you right now, the stuff you can do in this is once in a lifetime. It's literally once in a lifetime. Mm-hmm. For 50 years, you'll talk about it. So,
and then besides that, on a personal level, a lot of our friends all around the world, we are in Japan today, China, Europe, America. What else would you say to someone after 14, 16 months who've said, God, I'm ready, or I'm depressed, or what shall I do with my life? So what advice you have? Because you gave a lot of subliminal message, which were fabulous, but the big one.
Well, I mean, look, the depressed is something that I think is now sort of just the lay of the land. I mean, I would say first of all, I would say, instead of asking the person you live with to be nice to you, be nice to the person you live with. Start there, because they put up with a lot of crap from you over the last year and a half. And I think that if you want
The next lady on
like,
the show
that's
is
a weird
Jason
thing.
Wives' wife. Yes.
Oh God, yeah, that's
Or
revealing.
maybe your children too.
My children are revealing as well. That would be revealing, to say the least. I mean, I really do. I think that you gotta, like, everybody wants to travel and leave and go, look, we have to go somewhere now. But truthfully, you have to look at what, you've been in one place for a year and a half and you're bummed. So you got to fix that place before you leave it. It's my personal opinion. Sometimes you live alone, so you got to fix that place still for yourself. You got to,
Love it.
it's
Great advice.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, Jason, thank you immensely. Congratulations for what you do both.
Thank you.
Not only for the wine world, but as an inspiration in your combined field in many ways. We cannot wait to listen to the podcast, even more Wine Access Unfiltered. Somm TV, dear friends, $4.99 a month. Now I'm hired. Finally, am I?
Yeah, well, I'd hire you in a second. I don't know if I can afford you. I've
Dear
seen
friends,
that
thank
golden
you.
lobster.
I know, here she is.
Yeah.
Dear friends, thank you for being with us. To Jason Wise and Vanessa Conlin. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.